Welcome back to Corporate Nitro.
Corporate Nitro, or Corporate Gas, as I should say. We just did a deal, $700 for 3 gas cars, 2 buggies and a monster truck. That's $460 US. It's such an epic deal. And a whole box of e-Revo parts as well. I have to show you this. So we've got a HPI Baja 5B on top. It's just missing the bodywork. Underneath it, we've got a Rovan 5B buggy clone. That one's got an issue. It's got the radio is not responding, so we'll have to look into that. The gentleman went to start the Baja, the HPI one, and the rope snapped off the little handle here. So we're gonna have to see if we can fix that rope. And then we've got a Maverick monster truck, Blackout MT, which is very rare. Just a little bit of damage on the back to the body, but other than that, the thing looks amazing. $1,200 in Australia, brand new for that monster truck. It's probably slow, but being so rare, I'd like to get my hands on it. Let's get these home. I'm 200 kilometers from home still. I don't know how I'm going to get these home because I had to fold down the seats and move the baby kid seats. I've still got to take my family home and all the luggage. Alright, time to digest this and see what we got. We've got a bag of manuals, some of them are for bicycles. We've got some on-road tyres for the Baja, some larger off-road tyres for the Baja, lots of parts for a Traxxas e-Revo, and about 15 sway bars in there. Some more suspension parts for an e-Revo. Castle Link, he must have done a Castle ESC on the e-Revo. LRP catalogue, 4 digital radios. We've got a complete set of sand paddle tyres for the Baja, miscellaneous tools, a spark plug, some body parts, some more bumper equipment, a charger for the Baja, 4 glow plugs, which don't relate to anything here, but he must have had nitro at one stage. Another digital receiver, more bumper parts, broken miscellaneous parts and Traxxas parts, glue, after-run oil and castor oil, some more e-Revo parts there, some adapters, some stickers, and the Traxxas manual from probably a long time ago when he bought the e-Revo. All right, well, that's everything that came here, and we've got to figure out how we're going to get this home. This is so much stuff. All right. Thing I want to do with the Rovan Baja 29cc clone is just have a look if it comes with a battery or not, and then start testing that radio equipment. It's not immediately obvious to me how to get to the radio box, but one thing I did notice is that get your pliers out because there's these bloody pins everywhere. So once you get those pins out, you can get that up, and then you can get that up. Alright, what can we see? No battery, just, what is that, an on-off switch? Yeah, it is, an on-off switch down there, connected to nothing. So we need to obviously put a battery in there, and we've got servos. That's a big steering servo. Got a nice little throttle servo. So I don't think there's a receiver in here. The Rovan battery is on 6.5 volt, so that's good that it's maintained its voltage even though we charged it a week ago. So we've got heaps of these ones spare. This piece here seems okay. So it's really just that little cross member there that we need for the back of the car. So since the Rovan has got bent shocks that won't compress, the aluminium is all buckled here, and there's no skid plate here. It's generally just a mess. I'm thinking what we do is just take the wheels off, take the shocks out, have a real good look at it, see if we've got any servo action with everything disconnected, because at the moment it's all just seized. And we just got to do a really good inspection and see how much damage there actually is here, because once we know how much damage there is and how many parts we're going to need that we can't fix, we'll know how much we're up against in terms of dollar cost, and we can make a decision: are we going to go ahead and repair this car or just keep it for a parts car? I mean, so far I've already ripped off the pull start so I can start the HPI Baja. So yeah, it doesn't make sense replacing these parts if we're not going to be able to fix the whole thing. What are you doing, Joe?
Cleaning tires.
Did you find anything in there?
Spider.
Spider.
And a cockroach.
And a cockroach. We got one of these massive shocks off the Rovan, and we're going to see how bent it is. I mean, I think it's bent. Plug the battery into the Rovan. Can't even move the on-off switch. Completely frozen. Let's bypass it. We'll go straight into the receiver. Plug the battery directly into the receiver. Remove the steering, because I know that there's something frozen going on here. I don't want to ruin all that. And give it some throttle. No, nothing at all. No response. Turn it off. Turn it on. Nothing. Not sure what's going on. Is it the battery? Just charge the battery. Is this supposed to have lights on it? Don't know. So we're taking the Rovan shocks apart. They look like the 6mm shocks that you can buy from TIT Racing, which is great. So if the shaft is bent, we can just order the shaft again. I don't need to order the whole shock. I can save money on this section, and then just from the there'll be a new piston, a new shaft, and then a new retainer down the bottom. So let's disassemble, but we don't want to lose the oil, so we'll just pour the oil into here, and then you see how the oil goes clear the next day and all the crap falls to the bottom. We can reuse the oil. Take the top off, see what comes out. Oh, that's clear. I was not expecting that. I mean, there's not much in there, and that's what happens when your shocks are bent. Yeah, all the oil's already been lost. Alright, so we gave the shock just a hard yank, and look at that, it went down. It comes up, it goes down. So I rolled it on the table, and it doesn't seem like it's bent. So maybe it was just stiff from months of sitting. I don't know. But it doesn't feel the smoothest. I still think it is a little bit bent, but yeah, can you hear that? It doesn't feel great, but is it so bad that it's not going to work? I don't know. Let's put it all back together and just have a feel and see if it works, if the spring even pushes the piston back down. Do you need to go to the gym if you work on 1/5 scale? No, you don't. You just keep wrenching on 1/5 scale at midnight. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he didn't go to the gym. He just worked on 5th scale. Alright, let's plug in a battery pack now that we've found the correct transmitter for this receiver. You know, I was about to throw this transmitter in the bin. Didn't even know this receiver was in here. Got so confused. Plug it in. Turn it on. Transmitter on. Plugged in. Okay, we've got some jittering. That's pretty good. Okay, now, do we have any steering at all? Okay, it's a bit rough, but it's working. And remember that when you first trying to line the servo horn, just from reading the manual, I remember it said the horn needs to be 10 degrees to this side. So this horn is facing this way. So that's all wrong. And that's why we've got, you know, we're turning to the right already. Okay, and throttle, what's going on with throttle? Oh, that doesn't want to move at all. Okay. And the hammer is moving, so we might have to reverse that throttle. Okay. So, oh, the hammer is still moving. What's going on? So we've got throttle, but we've got no brake. Okay, might have to look into that. Got throttle, but we've got no brake. Okay, well, at least we fixed up the servo reverse. That's the main thing. We've got no brakes. Now, how hard should the shock be? There's no oil in here. This is the front shock. Should it be this hard with no oil? It's very hard. Maybe it's bent. The Rovan transmitter doesn't have any foam on the steering wheel, but I've got a dead transmitter here. Rip off the grip. We'll put that on there with a bit of glue. Beautiful, look at that, like a brand new transmitter. Okay, we have got a delivery from TIT Racing. We've got the spur gear cover that we needed. We have got the front and rear bumper that we needed for the Rovan. We've got the sway bar mounts for both cars, both Bajas. And we've got our wheel nut wrench, which also supports removal of shocks, which we need to do because our shocks are stuck. They're completely frozen. Not smooth at all. Let's remove this top protector here and get this purge bulb out from the good carb and put it into the Maverick Blackout. This is the one that's got the cracked one. We're going to replace it so we can get this guy running. 4 screws here. Take off the cover to get the bulb out, the purge bulb. An observation for the Rovan is that it's a 4-bolt engine. 29cc would be the first clue. It does say Rovan in there. It says Rovan there, but here it is. There's a screw there and there's another bolt over there. So that means there's a bolt on each corner. It's a 4-bolt engine. Got some bad news about the Rovan. We thought that the chassis was bent and we're just going to bend it back, but on closer inspection the chassis is completely cracked. That is not good. We can't fix that. So that means that this whole front end, all the weight, every time you do a jump or you hit a pothole, all the pressure is going on here, which is already fatigued, and that outer edge there. So if we bend this chassis back into position, we're going to fatigue this area here even more than it already is. I'm just wondering if we should just leave it alone rather than risk damaging it. I mean, wow, what a mess. We've got, we're missing the bash plate, cracked chassis, missing screw, working our way down. We've got a non-original screw there. We've got the bash plate is cracked, so we can't mount the guards properly. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, eh? If we take out these pins here, we can take the wing off and then we can work on all this back section here a little bit easier. because we've got to replace the broken part here. Also, I'm thinking that it's time we take the whole front end off so we can straighten the chassis properly. Right, we want to see why these Rovan shocks, they don't compress very easily. Look at that. They're just so stuck. And then you go in, it's like, that is not smooth at all. Why is that not smooth? I can actually feel the piston rubbing on the inside. Does that mean they're bent? It's gotta be bent. See that? It doesn't want to move. And then you squeeze it. It's so stiff. I mean, it's kind of like the piston is rubbing on the shaft, and it's like the O-rings are worn out as well. We're just taking the Rovan shocks apart so that we can work out why are they bent or what's going on. Alright, so now that we've taken apart all the shocks, what I'm thinking is we'll get the shock pliers, my fake Techno shock pliers, and then what we'll do is we'll grab the shaft, we'll undo the nut, we'll remove the piston, then we'll reassemble the shock and we'll see the action. Does it go up and down easily? Okay, so that'll prove, is it the piston rubbing on the shock body or is it the O-rings? We need to know what's going on. That doesn't feel good at all. That doesn't feel good. That tells me either the shaft is bent or the O-rings are interfering. What we should do next is start removing these clips, get all the way in there, and then see, is it these O-rings in there causing the problem. So to quickly check if the shaft is bent, we'll put it against a steel rule. Nah, that is not bent. If these are bent, it's the world's smallest bend. It's not even worth mentioning that they're bent. These Rovan shocks, they're very stiff. Even if I see that, they don't want to move. What have I got to do to make them smooth again? Like my HPI shocks are super smooth. I don't even know how to pull this apart. I don't even really have tools to pull this apart. Alright, so we grab the shaft, put the steel wool with a little bit of metal polish, and then we're just going to polish this shaft a little bit just to see if that's going to make any difference and make it smoother. But from what I've read online, people are saying that this actually doesn't really help too much, and the problem is that these Rovan shocks are not HPI shocks, and that's it, they're never going to be good. Now I don't really believe that, because at the end of the day, if this steel shaft is the same size, then why is there so much friction? Is it because whatever's going on here is too tight, the O-rings are too tight, the plastic spaces are too tight? There must be something that's too tight. Oh, it's just slightly better, but not much. Once I saw a famous YouTuber do this. They put the shock shaft and the hinge pins into a driver or a drill, and yeah, it was much quicker to polish it that way. Alright, so in conclusion, there's no need to put any oil in there because the shocks just don't move anyway. And if they don't move, what do you need extra dampening for? So we'll just leave them like that, super stiff. The HPI ones are infinitely better because they actually work. These are like truck shocks, good for heavy loads. Yeah, what a shame. Couldn't get them going. Don't have any circlip pliers. Do you know what day it is today? Today is International Bring Your Rovan Baja 5B Shock Absorbers to Work Day. And luckily for me, I did bring them. I found this, not sure what it is. Seems to be the perfect thickness to get in there. See, it's in there, but it's forcing it out. This tool would be good for the clips, the external clips, not these internal ones. So I don't know if it's actually going to be useful. Anyway, I guess if we put that on there, put the pliers on there, give it a squeeze. Whoa! We are so close, but so far. Alright, just get a 6mm drill bit and we'll just turn it by hand, because I mean, what's in there? Failed O-rings that have gone hard, or a plastic spacer? There's obviously something rubbing on the shaft. So as we can see, we're not touching the aluminium, we're just touching whatever black plastic or O-rings are in there. We're probably not going to be able to hold oil in there, but that's okay, because we needed new O-rings anyway. O-rings is what holds oil, not spacers. So if we want to put oil, we change the O-rings. Since I don't want to spend money taking this apart, buying pliers and buying new O-rings, I'm going to run them without oil. We'll just use springs on the front. The springs are as hard as anything. You know, probably the same springs they put in four-wheel drives. Look at all that black that's coming out. So much material coming out. See? Still, more material still coming out. It's just so hard. Look at that. It's just so hard. It shouldn't be that stiff. How's that? It's a little bit better, not much. Still too tight. Oh, that's better. It's not great, but it's better. Alright, and I think what we'll do with this Rovan, we'll pull these pins out here, right? That will free up the entire top of the roll cage by removing these two pins here. Okay, that'll make it easier to take all this stuff here out and start working on replacing these broken parts. And then we can also start digging into that rear diff to find out why it's locked. I want to see inside there. And then we want to remove all the front so we can fix up all this broken section here and start straightening out this alloy here and the bent chassis. We need to fix that as well, and all these suspension pieces here. Got one out. What has this one been glued in there? Why doesn't that want to move? I haven't had breakfast yet. Well, we don't need the receiver for a long time, do we? Now look at the damage here at the spark plug. This cap here, you can see the spark plug through. We might have to throw some silicone on there. The other thing is where they've zip tied the roll cage to the lead here. Look at all the damage that it's doing. Not good. We actually have to remove this screw here, okay, to remove this bar so that we can squeeze these two pieces of plastic together to get the whole roll cage out. So I need to take this slider guard off here, maybe with that pin. Once I get that down, then I can get to the screws here and remove these nuts, then I'll be able to remove the broken piece here, put a new one on there. As for the top, we need to get this broken piece out, and that goes all the way through there. So I'm not sure what we have to do to get that off just yet, but I know that if we're going to get to the diff, we might as well just take the whole thing apart. So we've removed the pin. Maybe if we just lift it up, maybe this has to slide back. Oh no, it can't. Oh well, we can get to the screws that way. So there's so much holding it in. What's holding it in? Besides that guy, is there anything else holding it in? Surely it just slides out. Oh, it does. We got it out. All right, well, we can wash this. What a mess. Look at all the dirt. Look at the rust. Far out. Look at the rust. There you go. That exhaust hanger, that needs to be re-welded back on. Now, I don't weld. I got no equipment. If I had the equipment, I would give it a shot, but I just don't have the equipment. Right, we're just going to take a wild guess here that I need to remove that screw there and that screw there to get this bumper off. But look, it's all rusty. We'll give it a bit of a spray with the WD. That'll help me get the tools in there easier. Now, is that going to come out? Are we going to get lucky? Oh, yes. Come on. I want to be lucky. Help me get lucky. Yes, we got it.
Shake it, baby.
Wow, everything is rusty. Put WD-40 everywhere. All right, so we got the broken piece, and then the new one that's arrived from Tiddy Racing. Then we've got this broken piece. Look, it's all burnt from the exhaust, melted there, and then broken here. And there you go, full length. Now this is not a new piece. It seems to have been used, but there doesn't seem anything wrong with it. I can see thread there. I don't see any cracks. We're going to reuse that used piece. Today's episode of Corporate Nitro is sponsored by WD-40. So we get that piece. We've got to slide it into position. All right, we've got the bottom pieces on and screwed in. It's just a matter of lining up this top bumper and then putting the bolts back in there. All right, it's now time to dig into the front of the Rovan. We've got a bent chassis. We can actually see it's not sitting straight. It's all skewed that way to the left. And we want to know if we have to bend this back, or will we just leave it? It seems fatigued on both sides. It's definitely had a hard front impact. We want to know how much damage we've got. Is the steering damaged? We've got to reinstall some plastic parts that have arrived and re-secure all these plastic parts. And we need to reinstall all this section here, over here, make it the same. We'll get the front shocks back in, even though they're not repaired yet. But since we've got so much to do, let's just start pulling it apart and getting that chassis straightened, especially from underneath where it's bent. There, that's where it's bent, and all these missing screws. So first thing we're going to do is get into a comfortable working position. You'll notice that I don't sit down anymore. I do all my work standing up. I've got the Baja on its side with the fuel cap up so that we don't drip fuel everywhere. And we've got a little free light from IKEA that's going to help us see what we're doing. Another light up there as well. That's tight, that doesn't want to move. Whoa, that's hard as well.
Shake it, baby.
WD-40 everywhere. These screws are frozen. This will hopefully loosen up the rust. Doesn't want to move, don't force it, don't break your tools. Nah. Too much rust. Not going to bother. Rust. It's nature's thread lock. All these sharp bits on the plastic, they're super sharp. I'm going to just fix that up. And then I'm going to put the grinding bit on there now, because all this aluminium here, it's all burrs, sharp, sticking up. I'm going to smooth it out. Rovan pain in the ass. We're taking out the flathead screws from here. They're these ones here, the short fat ones, short flat fathead. So that should release. We've also taken out the screws from in there. They were actually not flathead, they were cap head. Just in case you're wondering why we're even bothering taking all this apart, I'll tell you why. When you turn the steering servo, this guy here is smashing in there, so you won't get any steering. We need to rebend this chassis back into position so that we've got steering. Otherwise, we're going to burn up our steering servo, which might even burn up the receiver. I just cannot get this screw out of the Rovan. It's just spinning and spinning and spinning. I even tried putting pressure on the back of the screw. I just can't get it out. Let's take these E-clips off and dig in a little bit more, maybe undo these screws and see if we can get closer. I managed to get a few things off. We got the shock towers off, the front brace, these little pieces, these little clips fell out. That means we are getting closer to getting this bastard screw out. Had to take this bumper back out because I forgot to put all the nuts in there, 1, 2 and 3. And as I pulled it out, the whole hinge pin has come out. Look how rusty it is. I'm gonna have to clean up that rust. Alright, I'm going to see what's going on with this diff because it's definitely locked. You move one side, the other side moves. I'm not happy with that. Now, let's take the shocks off and remove all this plastic here. Look at that, it's not even the right screw. So I got a feeling that if I remove these 2 screws, then that bulkhead support there will come out, and then I'll be able to remove these 4, and that should give me good access to the diff. Look at the wear and tear on this outdrive because of the lock diff. It's getting smashed. Check this out. He didn't have an E-clip, so he's just used a bit of wire. There. He's made some wire and twisted it around where the E-clip should go. That's amazing. What a hack. There you go. Spot the difference. One of these is an E-clip, one of these is not. Which one is the E-clip? So we've got all the front out. This is the screw we couldn't remove. Look at the damage to the plastic. It's all fatigued and cracked. That's why it's gone white like that. Just there. Alright, so we're going to try and get that screw out by... We'll jam a screwdriver in here to push the plastic away as we unscrew. That's how we're going to get that out. We'll have a look at this steering, see if there's any other damage here. We've got to get smooth steering. And this is our opportunity to bend the chassis back into position. You can see the bend. It's quite pronounced when you've got everything off. I don't know if I'll be able to do it in my little vise. It's probably too small and I don't want to break it. Probably have to get a bigger vise to do this job. Maybe even heat up the aluminium first. Yeah, that's really bad. It's skewed and bent. We just found out the reason why this one doesn't want to move at all. And the reason is, how am I going to show you this? The reason is, it's the wrong size lock nut. He's put a small lock nut in there, so now it just spins forever. We're going to have to use the pliers, try and grab the wrong size lock nut while we undo the screw. The hinge pins are completely frozen. They've rusted inside the lower arms, and because they've rusted I can't pull them out. So I'm going to smash the hinge pin the wrong way to release the rust and then bring it back out. I'm going to stack the hinge pins on top of each other. Put this hinge pin on top of that hinge pin. You see in there, that's a screw. Now there's a lock nut on there, but it's the wrong size. So it keeps spinning. You can't get the screw in, you can't get the screw out. It just stays there. So how are you going to get the screw out if the lock nut is just keeps spinning, stopping you from getting it out? Well, here's the plan. We're going to get a nail, stick the nail in there so the lock nut can't spin anymore, and then take the screw out. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Been trying for 10 minutes to get this hinge pin out, but it won't slide. I can't go any more forward because it's smashing the engine mount. Can't go backward because I've got nothing to lever against. Alright, let's spray it with the WD-40 and see if we can just work it out. Alright, another 10 minutes later with the WD-40 and using the Allen key as a punch, just holding it here and smacking it with a hammer, starting from there obviously, and then working our way slowly. So we've got half the hinge pin out. I think just a few more taps now, we'll get it out. Hallelujah, we've got the arms off the rear. Still can't get this one out. Might have to use a drill and drill into that plastic a little bit just to hold that lock nut into position. Maybe we drill a small hole. See that screw there? It's just stripped. So if we drill a small hole, then we put a 2.5 hole, then we put a 3mm screw, something like that, and then that screw will just hold the lock nut in position so that we can undo the screw. Maybe a 1.5 hole and a 2mm screw, something like that. So what I'm thinking is we put a little hole in here and then we can put a screw that will hold the lock nut in position so we can undo it, because that lock nut's the wrong size. So now that we put that little screw in there, maybe that screw can grab the lock nut, stop it from turning, so that we can take the big screw out from underneath. Okay, moment of truth. Is it going to work? Where's my tent peg? Need more leverage here. Nah, it's not coming out. I wonder why. Maybe now we can get a screwdriver in there, finish the job. Made a mess of the screw, but it did half the job. Alright, now that we got the screw out, let's do a bit of a forensic post-mortem. And it wasn't that the nut was the wrong size, it was that the screw was stripped where the nut was, so it was just spinning forever. The nut actually was doing its job. So we'll have to throw this, and lucky my box of screws has just arrived. So since we had so much success getting the stripped screw out of the back of the car, since we've got a stripped screw in the front of the car, I might do that technique again of drill a hole, put a screw in there, the screw bites into the lock nut, and then we can get it out. And it has worked again. Put 2 screws in the bottom to bite into the nut, and we get the screw out. Now, let's have a quick look, see what's going on. You know what? The screw doesn't look stripped on this one like the other one. So is the nut the wrong size? You know what? The nut is the correct size. I don't know why this was spinning. Have to take it apart and have a closer look. Transmitter on. Plug a battery into the receiver. Whoa! And let's test some steering. Yep. We've got steering. We've got cobwebs and steering. Just wondering if the spider will come out. 2040, RS2040 Rovan. Digital. Oh, that's digital too. That means I can run a LiPo. This piece is completely stuffed. Not just because I drilled holes in it, but it's all bent, and seems like screws have pushed it out of shape completely after the massive frontal impact that it had. The lock nut just keeps spinning in there. I probably could put some epoxy and set the lock nut in there into the correct position, but if I get it wrong, it's going to make reassembling the car a nightmare. So that's in position. Guess all we have to do now is just twist it. The whole vise is moving on the desk. It'll stop soon. Uh-oh, we've done a bit of damage. Alright, I thought I ruined it, but no, it's pretty good. It's pretty straight now. That looks pretty level to me. I think we will leave it there. All these sharp bits of metal, they're not good. They slash your hands. The clear silicone O-rings for the Baja have arrived. 10mm wide and have a 6mm inner. So that means they've got a 2mm cross section. Okay, mini circlip pliers have arrived. It's time to see if we can actually get the circlip out. Go in. Okay. Squeeze. You know what? I'm going to put some eye protection on. I don't trust this. In. See, this is totally useless because you squeeze it, and then what do you do next? What do you do after you squeeze it? You kind of got to flick it out, don't you? It's like I need 2 tools. One to hold the thing in position, and then one to flick it out or something. Okay, this is the other one. We'll try again. We'll give it a squeeze. Nah, doesn't want to go. Don't know why. Okay, this is what we'll do. I'll put it in the vise. The vise can hold it in position. I'll close the clamps, squeeze it, and then maybe what I'll do is I'll try and flick it up with this sharp nail. When in doubt, grind it out. Alright, we used the mini grinder for 5 minutes, and what we've done is we've removed a section of the aluminium up here, up the top, and then what we're thinking is we've done 2 more slots down the bottom. We might remove this lip here as well. But first I'm going to try one more time. We have ground a little bit more in here so that we can get the screwdriver in there now. Oh, we got it. We got it. Mini grinder tool to the rescue again. Now we should be able to push all this rubbish out and see what's going on inside here. We want to know why none of this stuff was smooth. Start with that bushing. Come on, bushing. Come on, George Bush. Okay, bushing. Was it this one? Okay, well that's bad. That's sliding too much. That's scratching the shaft. That could be a lot looser. But it's not that bad. And this one? Oh, that's the problem. This one here's the problem. It's too tight. Why are Rovan shocks so bad? The reason they're not smooth, the reason they leak, the reason why they're so stiff, and the reason why they are inferior to HPI shocks is because they don't use clear silicone O-rings. They use this hard rubber boot, which is the wrong size, and it makes the shaft very hard to slide up and down through this hard plastic boot. It is terrible. They should have used clear silicone O-rings like HPI. Alright, so if we get the 6.5mm drill bit and just rotate this by hand on there, okay, take a bit of that excess material off, and then put our shaft in. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. You know what? It probably won't hold oil, but just to get some shock action in the front, that's going to be good enough for me. Alright, we've drilled heaps of material out with the 6.5. Now it's sliding even so loose. Alright, put the black piece back in. Put this little brass collet back on top. Compress it all together. Wait! So I'm using the high-speed rotary tool to remove a bit of material here. So that way when I come in with the pliers, I can go deeper through the circlip into this guy a little bit. There you go. We've taken off a bit of material. That should make it easier to get things on and off. Alright, put the E-clip back in. Try again. That's more acceptable. It's loose enough to slide, but not so tight that we can't move. All back together. It's a lot smoother now. There's no oil in there. It is still quite stiff, but my understanding is that Bajas need stiff front shocks. I think that's going to be good enough. It won't be too springy because it's just so hard. Chamfered side down so that it stays in there is normally what people do. However, I don't have an issue with it staying in there. So I'm going to put the chamfered side up so that it's always easier to remove. got most of the arms off. I've been reading the manual and it says remove the exhaust, remove the top plate, remove the arms, remove the brake plate, and then if you remove the 4 screws at the bottom here, 1, 2, 3, 4, then the whole diff piece can come up. So I'm going to try and do this without removing the exhaust because I reckon that's not going to budge and I don't want to break these little bolts here. I'd rather just leave everything there and just lift up and slide out. I reckon I'll try my best to do this without moving the exhaust. Now look how bad this is set up. Okay, the manual says that when the brake arm here goes through, there should be only a couple mil hanging out the side here. This is pushed all the way in here. This causes a couple of problems. 1, that one there is going to hit against the arm. 2, the brake rod over here is going to hit against all this metal here. So that should be moved all the way forward. We'll fix it up when we put it back together. It looks to me like we're down to the last couple screws. These ones here. I believe if I remove those, we might get some activity because this is already loose. And the only thing I'm not sure about is, the only thing I'm concerned about is maybe that screw there, those 2 screws there, mean that this thing is not going to come off. Maybe we have to remove the spur gear to get the diff out, which is not a problem. It's just an E-clip and a couple of screws. But I wasn't expecting that. I think I'm actually going to have to remove those. Well, I just removed the E-clip. That was pretty easy. Bang! Spur gear is off. So what we'll do now is, besides look how much grass there is from the bush, we will probably just remove 1 and 2. Actually, I think we need to remove these 2. You know what? I don't think we're going to get this out. Alright, well let's just try our luck anyway. We'll just lift up. And let's try and get these 2 screws out, see what happens. Now that's only going into plastic. That should actually move. I don't know why it's not moving. Okay, that one's moving. Come on, diff. Maybe the whole thing needs to go up. Maybe that's what it wants. Oh yeah, it does. Just lift the whole thing up and slide out. Yay, we got it. We got it. There we go. So that's the how we're looking here. We got the hinge pin holder. We got the rear tower, and we got the diff and brake unit. So that's a good result. This is interesting. This is really interesting. There's 2 rotors, and look at that, some ninja stars from Ninja Turtles. Right, so this is what we've been waiting for. Maybe what we'll do, we'll go over to the little workbench, and we'll give this a bit of a clean, and see if we can start taking it apart. But judging by the shape of the screws, this has definitely been worked on before. Somebody's been inside here before. This is not a virgin diff case. Alright, what are we doing today?
Washing.
Okay, what do you want to wash? You want to wash your little Paw Patrol foam? Okay, show me the dog. Nah, you can't wash this. You got to wash Rovan parts and Maverick Blackout parts and Baja parts. You're going to be busy for a while. You can wash that later, okay?
Okay.
What do you want to wash first? That's right. We wash RCCars first and then wash your dogs later. What are you doing?
I'm cleaning Baja part.
Ah, you're cleaning the Baja parts. Are you having fun?
Yeah.
Show me. Oh, you're doing a good job. Check this out. It's grass from the bush. Whoa. Maybe a cow can eat that. So the on-off switch is completely frozen. You can't move the switch in any direction. So it needs to be removed, which means we need to remove the whole the whole battery receiver box. That screw is not original. So let's remove it all. Throw this in the bin. Don't trust these switches, because if they don't move, well, maybe they're not going to keep the power constant, which could lead to radio issues, which I've seen before many times. Once we remove that, that will give us access to these screws, which we need to remove anyway to get this bent piece out, and then we can heat it up and start hammering it, try and get it flat again, try and spend $0 restoring this car. Alright, we've got the big lock nut out of there. Now it's time to do these 4 screws and remove this tray. Do you think he was going fast when he had the crash? Look how bent that is. That plate is supposed to be completely flat. Not only is it bent there, but look how fatigued the metal is here, and here, and here. It's ready to snap. Alright, so the last thing I want to do now is get into a war of strip screws. We've been lucky, we haven't had strip screws so far. It's all been smooth sailing. Don't know how. Normally with this much rust, we get loads of strip screws. So what we want to do now is, because there's been a big impact, I think we might be in trouble. What we'll do is we'll clean up, we'll get a 2mm rod, put it on the sock, and we'll try and clean up. Try and clean up the surface a little bit. Get that rust out. What can we do to clean this hole? A bit of metho. Clean the hole a little bit with a bit of alcohol. What else can we do? Heat the screw up. Is that going to help? Okay, maybe a bit of shock. A bit of shock will help. Normally a bit of shock does the trick. Breaks the rust. Nah, we're spinning. We're spinning. This is a bad situation. It's too much movement. Alright, either we get the grinder out and we make it a flathead, or we drill the entire screw out, or we just leave it where it is and just straighten it from within. Straighten it and leave it in there. Might be the only option. Now, does that look correct to you? This side here is all screwed in nice. This side here, what's holding it in? The screw's all the way over here and the washer is just touching the edge. Look at the play. I can move it. Who set this up like this? Surely there would have been another piece on the back there where you could screw this into from the front. Surely. But you know what? I don't know. I can't believe Rovan would have done this. This looks like a hack job to me. Alright, I've looked it up. This is the wrong servo. It should be 81mm long. This is only about 76. And it should be 66mm wide at the body. And this is only about 59 or 60. So it's almost the right size, but it's actually a little bit too small. And that's why we've got the washers holding it on there. It's not the right servo. Alright, so we sprayed a bit of WD-40 on here just to loosen that up because it was not moving at all. It was super stiff, now it's super loose. Next we're going to try and get this on-off switch out. There's the on-off switch, it's all corroded. Can't even see the pattern for the Phillips head. This one here you can see it. I'll try and get that one out first. Now we're just spinning, maybe this driver is a little bit big. This hammer tends to loosen things, doesn't it? Entire screw just melted off. Look at that. Alright, just grind the crap out of the other side as well. Oh, we snapped it out. There we go. Both screw heads snapped. Oh, it must be so rusty in there. Straight in the bin. Well, believe it or not, our sponsor WD-40 has saved the day again. We've put 2 sprays of WD-40 in there, and we've got it moving nicely again. I played with it 100 times, and I reckon that switch is good again. However, we can't screw anything back into position because remember we snapped the heads of the screws off. Alright, back on the small bench. Let's get some more lights. That's better. Alright, so engine power comes from this side, and then we can see that the outdrives move forward. So that's great. What happens if we hold one? No, we can't hold one. Can we hold the other one? No, I can't turn. Okay, can we turn them in opposite directions? No, nothing. So we've got a spool situation here that's completely locked. How was this locked? Let's open it up and find out. I've been dying to open up this diff and find out why it's so locked. I've never seen a locked diff. It doesn't make sense to have a locked diff. Even in sand, you wouldn't even need a locked diff. You can still muck around with a Baja in sand with an open diff. You know, what is it, mud? Mud is the problem? You want to drift in mud, so you need an open, a locked diff. It just doesn't add up. I am so excited to open up this diff and see why it's locked. Let's go and have some lunch, come back later. Right, time for the main event. Let's pull this guy apart and see how far we can get. We will need some drivers. Oh, well, that is tighter than I was expecting. Okay, that one was loose. Now you know a screw's going into plastic when they're coarse tapping screws like that, eh? Okay, one. I read the manual last night, but I actually don't remember anything that I read. And the other thing is, I was reading the wrong manual. I was reading the version 1 HPI Baja 5B, and this is a 29cc 4-bolt Rovan, which is essentially very different than the first version of HPI's iteration. I don't know how different it is, but I'm sure there's a lot of differences. Okay, what happens next? Do we separate? Nothing on this side, nothing on the bottom. So in theory, this should now separate. I can't imagine any reason why this wouldn't separate now. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh my god. Whoa. Whoa. Is that rust? Alright, that one's smooth. So what we'll do is take some quick photos of this because it's all going to have to go back together. So just remember the side with the brake has got the bearing and then an E-clip. Can't even get that out, can I? And then that one. I mean, that doesn't even want to come out. Okay, how's the bearing? It's okay. It's not too bad. There is dirt everywhere now. We have to be very careful here that we don't make a mess of this and then forget how it all goes back together. Maybe we'll take that out. Does that come out? No, that's stuck in there. Okay, can we tap this out? Making a mess of the board, isn't it? Oh, we got one out. Surely this is going to come out now, surely. I mean, what would be holding that in there? There's nothing holding that in there. That's just going to fall out, isn't it? We'll just put that one there. Okay. Yeah, we got it. Of course we got it. Corporate Nitro, we always win. Alright, so this is what we want to know. We want to know why this diff, we want to know why it is completely locked. That's what we want to know. So in order to answer our question, what we need to do is start removing these screws. Give it a bit of a tap with a hammer. Okay, that's not moving. Nope, that's not moving. Does it need the 10 peg? Yeah, that's all it needed. Just needed a 10 peg. Oh yeah, we got it. Are you ready? Okay, time to undo it. Normally I don't show you me undoing all the boring screws, but let's have a chat. Why do you think this diff is locked? Do you think there's green slime in there? Silly putty? Do you think that there's some glue in there? Some lead solder? Do you think there's ball bearings in there? Do you think there's sand in there? Do you think it's just he's purchased a spool because he doesn't like open diffs? What do you think the reason is? I'm going to say there's a spool, but there's also part of me that thinks maybe it's just all jammed up as well. So, based on the condition of the rest of the car, there hasn't really been any modifications, have there? They've just been dodgy repairs. So what does that mean? Are we going to find a dodgy attempt at locking the diff? Or are we going to find that because of no maintenance, because seawater has got in there, nothing's going to move? Okay. Whoa, now, look at this. That's silicon. I wonder if the whole thing is full of silicon. That would make, everything would make sense. Now it's starting to make sense. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. What's going on? What's going on? There is no reason why this diff is locked. There is no reason why. That one is turning. Now, we can see a little bit of damage. Let me show you where. We can see a little bit of damage here, here, here. It's not looking great. That's looking normal. Okay, I don't know much about these cars, but that's looking normal so far. We got a gasket, we got some silicone. Next is this box here. Not much diff action here. Why not? Doesn't really seem to be a reason why. Okay, now which way does this go? Does the whole thing just slide out? All of them slide out. What's all this? Is that gasket maker? Why is that on the inside of the car, of the diff? Look at this. All this silicone on the inside. That shouldn't be on the inside. Is that the reason why this thing won't spin? You know what I think. I think Rovan did such a bad job assembling this. I don't think anyone's been in here. I think Rovan are just bad quality. Just because you buy an RCR doesn't mean it's actually ready to run. That just confirms all the parts are there. RCR means ready to rebuild as far as I'm concerned. So that way you can rebuild it properly. Well, these gears are looking good. I can't see any damage on these ones. Nah, nothing. It's looking good. Nothing wrong with it. Well, I wasn't expecting this result today. I was expecting to see something in here. I was expecting to see some glue or some epoxy or a spool or some gummy bears. Just something. But I'm not seeing anything at all. Okay, why is that so hard to turn? You take that out. Alright, so we got that out. Nothing wrong with that. The bearing doesn't feel the best. This bearing feels terrible. It doesn't seem like we're going to get that bearing out in any hurry. Remove the seal and put some oil in there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a sealed bearing. We should be able to remove the seal and put some oil in there. Okay, take that out with the small pin. Small pin seems to have worked. First of all, give it a bit of a clean with the WD. Okay, that's going to loosen everything up. Okay, now it's spinning, but now it needs some oil. So we can either go with the lithium grease or we can go with the silicone. I think the silicone will be better. Oh, love the smell of silicone spray. Alright, well that's nice and lubed up now. How about a bit of chain lube for a bicycle? Wet weather chain lube. Oh yeah, that's nice. Alright, we put the pin back in, the outdrive and then the pin. Then we put the screw back in there to stop the pin falling out. Okay, so we roughly got the pin in position. Let's put the sun gear in. Time to clean up this guy. Let's get rid of all these little bits of silicone. First we'll put the WD. WD-40 is not good for O-rings. However, I didn't spray the WD-40 anywhere near this O-ring. Then we'll put a bit of silicone spray. Oh, that's nice now. That's feeling good. Bicycle chain lube. This is good. Wet weather, Teflon. Probably the first time these bearings have seen oil. You know what else is good for bearings? A little bit of lithium grease. Thanks to our sponsors, WD-40 White Lithium Grease. Let's put the little seal back in there. Yeah, that's a good seal. You need a good seal. You know when this will loosen up? Once we start driving the car, that little bit of notchiness will probably go away. insert the shaft, rotate, slide, shaft goes in. Alright, that's down, slide him on. It's a lot of silicon, eh? So, have a laugh at my expense. I thought these little spaces so in the diff were diff lockers. They are not diff lockers. So, see what I did wrong and just have a laugh. Oh, I've just worked it out. That is the diff lock. You put this in to stop this spinning. Now there is no movement. Of course, this is by design. This turns your diff into a spool. So you don't need this if you want an open diff. If we grab this and put our little ninja stars back on there, chamfered side towards the middle. Alright, do we have a diff action? Do we have any diff action now? Now we do. Alright, let's put some oil in there. Or some grease. I think grease won't leak out. Oil probably will leak out everywhere. Rovan, remove the rear diff. We had our spool. We removed the plastic diff lockers. And now we've got an open diff again. So what we'll do is, we'll use the Valvoline Valplex EP Extreme Protection wheel bearing for disc and drum brakes, chassis, suspension and universal joints. We'll put this in there, and that way we'll get a bit of lubrication without locking the diff too much and without letting things run dry. I got new gloves on. Alright, let's try and get this back in. It's not lined up, it's not even close. Maybe it's happier when these two are lined up. Alright, do we have diff action? Whoa, it goes one way, but not the other way. It's a little bit crunchy. Well, there's a lot of grease in there. Oh yeah, it's going both ways. Hopefully it frees up a bit when we get it going. .4S battery, get my cable, plug it in, mini grinder. Take the cutting wheel off, put the cleaning tool on. Oh yeah. And we've got diff action as well. See all these bearings here, look. They don't move very good. Spray with WD-40. That should free it up a little bit. And then we'll hit it with the lithium grease. Now it's moving. Look, look, now it's spinning. See the difference?
Shake it, baby.
Well, that's nice and smooth. And a little bit of resistance from that grease I put in there. Actually, it's quite nice. That is really nice. Quite happy with how that turned out. So after going on the gas forums on Facebook and showing the people what I thought were the diff lockers, they quickly pointed out to me that they were actually diff spacers and the diff needs to have them. So I took the diff apart, put them back in and reassembled the gearbox. We made a huge mistake. These are not diff lockers. They belong in the diff. Apparently they do some kind of spacing of the gears. So we're gonna have to put these back in there and make sure that when we put them back in, we don't lock the diff. And that begs the question, why was the diff locked if they were always in there? Well, the diff was locked, we took it apart, we thought we fixed it, we made a mistake, we put it back together, we took it apart. This time we put the plastic spacers back in there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we observed how when the plastic spacers go in there, you need to make like a little circle. See that little circle shape there? That's the correct orientation. Anyway, I've got a completely open diff now, so I'm happy. Completely open. Completely open. I mean, there's a lot of resistance because I've got that blue Valvoline grease in there, but other than that, that's an open diff. I'm not feeling any clicky metal resistance, nothing funny like that. Actually, it's a nice amount of resistance, eh? So, if we can't get these screws out, maybe we can just drill them out. So I might just drill the screws out because I really want to straighten this. Otherwise, how are we going to straighten this? Is there another way to straighten this? Can we just bend it back? I mean, it's bending here. That's the problem. It's bending there. I don't want it to bend there. Yeah, we really need to get this out. Why don't we get a really huge tent peg, a real thick one, and just see what this piece of plastic is here. Because I don't even know what that is. Maybe the aluminium is threaded on the bottom piece. I don't know. Might have to be a little bit careful here. Alright, so yeah, I hit it with the tent peg again and it fell out. So it seems that it just slides in, grabs the bottom piece of metal, and then it's threaded on the inside. This is metal, not plastic. If we drill the screw out, this can fall out, but then I can't reuse it. I'm gonna have to buy new ones. Or just do the trick the guy did, just use a normal bolt and put a lock nut on the other side. Alright, why don't we just get a 3.5mm drill bit and just try and drill them out. I know we're going the wrong way with the drill bit, but either the head will fall off or we can get the screw extractor out and work that way. You see, I'm resting it on a business shirt. Corporate Nitro, business shirts. We got it. The entire head of the screw just came off. That means we've done one, we've got one to go. Oh yeah, we got it. That means the whole thing should be loose now. Is that right? Is the whole thing loose? Oh yeah, we got it. Look at that. It's so bent. We have to straighten it. That is mangled. And what about these? Are they going to pop out now? Wow. They are really in there, aren't they? Oh, we got it. There it is. Bit of rust. Great news. We got the top plate off. It only took me 4 months. But now we can see how truly bent it is. It is really bent on many different planes. So the plan is to heat up this bit of aluminium and then smash it with a hammer until it's straight again. Just get it nice and hot.
It's time to burn.
think we need a bigger hammer. Alright, brake rotors are a little bit rusty, so we'll get the 240 out, go with that first, and then we'll get the 400 out and do that second. Looks better already. Alright, we've got the steering bell crank here. It moves okay, but it's very rough. We've got a rusty bearing sticking out over here, and look at that, the balls are all rusted up. These balls are all rusted up, so it's not going to be very smooth in the car. It will work okay, but yeah, just very rough. So we're going to take a few parts apart and then give it a hit with the sandpaper and maybe a bit of a spray with some WD-40 just to loosen some of this rust and give it a bit of clean. There's a bit of grass and a bit of cobwebs in there as well.
How about this one now? How about this one?
Side of the upright, a dummy half now, we've got little Eisenhuth. Then it comes out now for Sloan, taken by Schneider, and he'll be stopped. Come on. Alright, mate, what the go is here. They must. Let's have a look.
Eisenhuth sticks the mid out, and it goes back.
Opening first half of Penrith, just.
Well, I think that's it. We've serviced, we've sanded, we've lubricated, we've cleaned, and it's all back together. I think that's a nice steering rack again. It looks good too. So since the Baja's got no oil in the rear shock, well, one of them does, one of them doesn't. I'm just going to get some old shock oil, which is probably the thinnest stuff I've got anyway, and fill it up. That's the empty one. And see the difference? That's the full one, thick and quiet. Okay, we've got the rear shocks done, and the only real difference is I've got this little adjuster in the close to the original position, whereas this one here I've put it all the way up to the top because I've got the harder oil in it and it won't compress as easily. Alright, this is the part that we need. This is the front suspension support or tower support, can't remember the name. This is the one we put the holes in it with the screws in it to get the nut out, because the screw had the impact had caused, because when there was a smash, the damage meant that the nut just kept spinning and spinning and spinning, so we couldn't stop the nut from spinning to get the bolt out. So we put the two holes in there, and then we put some screws in there, which kept the nut in position so we could do the bolt up. I don't really want to have two screws in here all the time, so what I'm thinking is we'll put a nut in there, we'll put a bit of a nail in there and a bit of epoxy that will hold the nut in position, and that way we can just leave the nut in there forever, so that I don't have to go and order parts from China just for one part that I need. I mean, the part is pretty mangled, it's pretty bent, but it'll still do the job. Alright, so first we put an old glove so that the epoxy doesn't stick to the board. Okay, we've got our screw and our bad nut in position. The plan is to just fill up the gaps with the epoxy, and we've got our 2-part epoxy called Araldite. This is a 5-minute solution. The last time I used this. maybe what we'll do, put a little bit on the bottom, a little bit in the holes that we made, and then rest that down there, and then try and get the rest of the epoxy into the gaps. I mean, that's going to be the hard part now. Go home to your hole. There we go. Lots of epoxy down in the hole. So we'll just leave that in a vertical position. Make sure the screws are vertical and leave that to dry. Alright. How's the epoxy going? Peel it off. Looks nice on that side. What about this side? Oh, now's the time to take it off a few hours later. No need to wait all day. There you go. It's even made some little threads for me in there. Now we've removed the screw. Maybe, just maybe, it'll dry even nicer. Now for the exciting part, time to put it all back together. Everything has been serviced and rust removed and straightened. Just a matter of finding the right screws and remembering how it goes back together, or referring to my own videos. Alright, put the steering rack back in there. Put the top plate back on. Goes on there. Now we've destroyed half the screws that go in this top plate, so maybe we'll just put one on each side for now until we work out what we're going to do. Is the steering rack work? The steering bell working? Yep. The rear arms. There we go. We almost got all of the front clip back together. Just a few more pieces now, like that little piece here that we fixed up with the epoxy, and then a couple of little bumper pieces here as well. Look at this. The servo horn has got the little link on the wrong side of the horn. It's all on backwards. No wonder this thing's got problems. Alright, now a very important part of the reassembly process, the part that we fixed with the epoxy. Will it actually work? Did I line it up correctly? And then once that goes in, then the plate should be able to be reattached on that side. We'll just do it up loose for starters, just to make sure it's biting. Okay, so not too tight. When things aren't aligned, just do them up loose, get all the screws in, and then worry about tightening up later. Okay, so I think we are not lined up straight. That screw is going into the aluminium over here instead of in the center. But anyway. Okay, that's biting. Nah, it's all crooked. Not good. Put the top plate on. Let's put it on tight and see what happens. So the HPI manual says that these screws need to be 20mm long to secure the top plate. But the Rovans are only 16mm, and that's fine. Let's give them a clean. Well, we are putting the front back together now, and the problem is the chassis is still bent. There's a big dent here, and that's causing alignment problems here, and it's causing the bell crank to smash here. Can't get the things to line up properly while the chassis is bent. It's going to be hard to do it. I don't think I can do it on the little vise. Alright, well, since there's no fuel in the tank, because I put it all into the other Baja, let's try and get this kink out of the chassis. So we'll put it in there and we'll just bend it back towards me. Let's just see how that goes. Nah, there's no way to do it because the vise is too small. Unless to go all the way down and do it in two sections. That's kind of awkward. What if I go the other way? Go this way, we'll just push it. Maybe from down here.
Push it good. Push it good. Push it good. Push it real good.
And do the same thing on this side.
Push it real good.
That's it. It's bending. What I want to do is I want to try and just put one bend there without making it have two bends. So what I'm thinking is, if I put it on there, maybe I can just get it to bend in one spot on the weakest part. There. Just put some pressure. Okay, that's bending. We've got the kink back in it again, and it looks right. I mean, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks like it's enough to get it all back together. I just bent it a little bit more by hand, and look at that, we almost got it perfect. It's all lined up in the bottom. The little black posts are in. It's almost lined up there. We've got perfect use of steering. It's all lined up in the top. These ones are just sticking up a little bit, but that's fine. Once I put the screws in, the pressure will hold it all down. You know what, I'm happy with that. I think we'll just leave it like that and let the screws do the work now. I'm not going to bend it anymore. I think we're going to be fatiguing this metal too much if we keep bending. If we look at the instruction manual, the servo saver is supposed to be screwed down to 13mm total height. Ours is way off, so we're going to put the driver through the little hole there, line it up, and then screw it down and measure as we go. Instructions say that the distance between the front steering arms, these rod distance gap should be 59mm. Mine are over 60, so we're going to place them in the vise and adjust them. And then we'll get this guy to hold that in position. We're going to have to wind it in with the 7mm spanner. When setting up the steering servo linkage assembly, there's supposed to be a 6mm gap there between the two pieces of plastic. Our gap is absolutely huge, it's not 6mm. Alright, we've just thrown some old batteries in the controller and the transmitter. We've plugged it all in with a little 6.6 volt Li-Fi battery. Just going to test the throttle. That's working. Just going to test the steering. Okay, so the manual says that the horn needs to be on a 10-degree angle. That doesn't look like 10 degrees to me. So let's just see what's going on here with the world's brightest LEDs, guaranteed to bring down choppers if you go outside. Steering trim needs to be on 0. So we've got dual rate control, and that's it. That means we have to set up everything absolutely perfectly and symmetrical. Because we don't have endpoint adjustment, only dual rate. How do we stop the batteries falling out? Just put a piece of foam there. That's it. Just putting some glue on that on-off switch, because remember we ground the heads off, so that way the glue can hold it in position now. Remember when we were trying to take the car apart, we noticed that there was no screw in here and there was no nut in there either. So I've got the hammer and I've grabbed the 5mm nut and I've smashed it in there. And then I put a screw into the nut and I smashed the screw, and I've pushed it up quite high, maybe a little bit too far if you compare it to this one. This one's quite close here. Now according to HPI manual, you put the nuts in from the top and they go straight down, but when I tried to get the nuts in from the top, the hole's too small. There's no way I was going to get that nut in there, so I've pushed it in from the bottom. Hopefully it's not up too high. We'll see how we go. Alright, so we're mounting this top plate here. 2 screws are okay, and if you remember, we had to grind off the other ones, so we can't reuse the screw, and we can't reuse the little locking nut that goes into the aluminium here. So just go through the spares. I probably pulled these off a scooter or something I found on the street. I can't remember, but they're the right length, they're the right thickness. 5mm nuts, we'll just use those instead. Cleaning the screws with a high-speed rotary tool. Alright, good news, the nut has held and the screw has gone straight in, and even though it was a little bit bent, it's all come together when the screws went in. So So now we can put the brand new skid plate on and hopefully do up the last 2 screws. Alright, the Rovan must not use 40mm screws because we just used 30mm screws and they went straight in and they don't stick out. So not sure why the HPI manual is using 40mm screws, but that is the right size. If they were another centimetre longer, maybe we won't get that top bumper on top. Front end is looking really good. We've got steering, we've got a little bit of suspension here. It's all going well. Who would have known that this car was involved in a massive smash? I mean, that's the only telltale sign, is the fatigued aluminium. Other than that, if you look at it from the front, you probably wouldn't even know. Battery box. I've glued this down because I don't use nickel metal hydride batteries anymore. Receiver, everything's working. Only a little cut on the cable. Now I'm following the self-build kit instruction manual from HPI. That's making it really easy to put this thing back together. But because we've got the muffler attached, we never removed it, that means it's really hard to go and install the transmission case. So I've removed the whole rear clip. We're going to put the transmission into this and then attach it all in one go. I ordered the sway bar mounts for 90 cents and I've got the sway bar, but I don't have any of the linkages that go into here, so I can't connect the sway bar to anything.
Shake it, baby.
So the muffler, the stinger, and the little support underneath it, which is this one here, that support is cracked. Okay, it's not joined, but I believe it's taking the weight. The support is taking the weight of the entire muffler. So that should be okay. A little bit of movement there is going to be fine. We've got the drive shafts, we've greased up the ends, it's time to slide them in. In, and then boots on. How do you get these boots on? Okay, the trick is, there's no trick, it's just hard. Just in case you're wondering what time Corporate Nitro does its work, 4 o'clock in the morning we do our work. We do a 3 or 4 hour session in the morning, and there's the proof, 4:35 AM.
Shake it, baby. Shake it, baby.
Far out, this is mission impossible. Went to put the brake rotors on, these ones that I just cleaned, but we've already got this shaft in position. So either I take all the screws out from underneath to lift everything up so I can put this on, so regarding the on-off switch that we've kind of glued in there because there's no screws, I'm just going to put a bit of foam and I've cut a little slot. The slot's going to go on that piece of plastic there. We're going to glue it in here upside down like that. So that way when we put the lid on, the pressure of the foam pushes down on the on-off switch so it doesn't ever move. Even if the glue comes loose under heat, vibration, G-forces, whatever, it'll all stay in place. Corporate Nitro, revelations and investigations. Referring back to the images of when I first bought the car, now we're looking for evidence of this screw or the 35mm screw that goes through. There we go. We can see that the top screw coming down is in there, but the cap head screw 35mm is definitely not in there. That means this car's been pulled apart that many times and the guy just didn't even bother to put the screws back in. We are putting the brake assembly back on and it's going pretty good. They don't seem to be rubbing. Yeah, nice. Now check this out. The spurgy on the Rovan, it's just like the HPI. It's got the dampers, the cushions, the bushings on the inside, and that gives a bit of give in the drivetrain. Instead of having a slipper clutch, you've got these dampers here instead, made from probably silicon. I think the first time I saw this was on a Traxxas model, maybe a Revo or something like that. And yeah, it's proven the test of time, and on a two-wheel drive car, these are great. Okay, we got the rear clip going well. Don't have this 35mm screw here. I'm going to have to go to the shops and buy a 5x35. We got exhaust very close there. That's why the other one got melted. Everything's on here. Probably need a few screws here, but we're up to that step in the manual where we have to put the cover on. However, this little piece here, it doesn't fit very good. It flops around and it probably touches the spurgy, and that's why I can't rotate the spurgy very well when I put the cover on. Just put a bit of glue here just to see if that would help keep it in position. It's so loose. I'm sure the HPI one would be better. Got back from the shop, we bought some screws. They're 35mm long. They're going to go here. So as I was saying earlier, I don't actually have the clip that goes around there as per the manual. Not sure if the Rovan one even uses a clip. I'll just assume that it does, but I'll just throw some washers in there. One on this side, two on this side. That should do the job. What are you doing?
Lifting the...
Are you helping me build the Baja 5B?
Yeah.
Liquor? Oh, perfect. It's in. Now the washers are in. One there and two over there. This radio box is giving me some problems. As you can see, you normally just put the pin through that little plastic retainer, but I've only got one of them. The other three I don't have. So my idea is to put a bit of foam in there, because I don't have any screws that are 7mm really thick, and the foam will take the gap, and that's going to stop this radio box moving around when we're racing hard. So that's going to be the big one, opposite corner to that one. That will stop the lateral movement, and then I'll just put some skinny screws in the other ones just for extra support, but these two here are doing all the work. So we noticed that the brake linkage was rubbing against the foam and causing some damage on the outer foam. So we took the foam off, and we gave a bit of a clean to the tank, and also the carb air filter pieces. That's going to give us an opportunity to give this inner foam a really good clean in some hot soapy water and let it dry out in the sun. But we've had a look at the brake linkage. It was all set up wrong. I mean, look, there's supposed to be a big kink about here. There's supposed to be a nice 25-degree angle there. That's missing, so we'll get the pliers and we'll re-bend that now, and then we can line up all this properly, get that in a vertical position. That little flat bit there, that's so you can give some throttle with your thumb without using the remote. So I've just copied the HPI one that's sitting on the shelf, and we'll make it nice again. I always put a little bit of shoe goo just where the antenna meets the mount, and that way this one doesn't fall out, because it's really annoying when you're playing and then this falls out and flops around or you lose it. Okay, big dramas now. So the throttle linkage is supposed to have this at 90 degrees perpendicular, which we do, and that means that we're at neutral throttle here, which we are, and we can give a bit of throttle like that, and then follow the linkage up. Uh-oh, look at the problem. That's supposed to be perpendicular, neutral brakes. Supposed to be a 1mm gap between there, and there's not. So, is that wound on too tightly? See, it's too tight. We've got to back that right out. Just backing the brakes right off. So I need a way to stop the water getting in there in case it's raining. So I cut some sticker up, some old sticker. We can go like that. What's that, Poland? Or we can go like that. I think that looks better. Well, as it turns out, that is not the Polish flag. Polish flag has got white on top, red on top, Monaco. Just put the shock on upside down. Oh well, they won't leak if I have them this way, eh? So because we don't have a functional exhaust mount here, it's not connected actually. So that means the exhaust can move all around, right? Because the clamp is where the problem is. And I don't want to dig apart at the clamp, because if I strip some screws there, then I'm going to have bigger problems. So what I want to do is I want to keep the stinger away from this side here, because on the other piece that I replaced, that plastic support was all melted here where this was touching. So I don't want it to touch. So what I need to do is I need to keep the stingers to the left side of the car. So I need to find a way to keep it left and possibly down, so that this is not smashing but just resting on there the whole time. So left and down. How am I going to achieve that goal? I need to think. So now that we've put the bottom bash guard through and then the little snap ring goes through there, that means I can't have my zip tie through there holding my stingers in place from sliding around up and down. And the zip tie that I've got there, it's probably going to melt anyway. They're rated at 85 degrees C, and it's documented that a two-stroke engine can get up to 400 degrees C, up to 600 degrees C. I don't really believe that. That's as hot as a candle. But anyway, it's going to get hotter than the zip tie. The zip tie might melt. This is the old rope, the old pull start from the HPI Baja. Let's just wrap it around here and then pull the whole muffler towards the left side of the car to keep it away from melting that support there. Alright, we've got the rope on there, and it's wrapped around a few places. I don't think it's going to come off. That's going to keep this centered. Right, there's no chance it's going to touch that now. Can't even push it there if I want to. We've got a couple of zip ties still on there, but if this melts, that's okay. The rope is there. I think that's going to be job done. That's the end of the back of the car. No doubt the most satisfying part of any restore is A, putting the wheels back on, and B, the first fire up. Finally I get to use my Tit Racing wheel wrench. And don't forget a little bit of Loctite, otherwise we are in trouble. I can't believe how good these bearings are. You know, the car looks like it's been dropped in the ocean. The car looks like it was one of the extras in The Little Mermaid 1.
Under the sea!
Well, there you go. 5-hour session, have a drink. Just needs a few stickers, doesn't it? Okay, something we completely forgot. We actually swapped the primer bulb with the Maverick Blackout because that's got an air leak. So now this has got the cracked one. Let's quickly swap that out for a brand new one that I ordered from AliExpress so that this one doesn't give us any issues. Okay, what the hell did I order? Here's the original one. Okay, that pops out there. That's the piece that we need. And this is what I bought. Well, what do I do with this? I just need the bulb. I don't need all this plastic crap. So we've just been hitting it with the high-speed rotary tool for about 5 minutes. And we got most of this off. Maybe it'll just pop off now. Come on, get off. Oh, that's it. We got it off. Okay, did we damage it? Oh, not much. That looks pretty good. I think. With the old and in with the new. Okay, I don't actually have any fuel, so I've just pinched the fuel from the HPI Baja. What's that, like a third of the pickup is touching fuel? It's not much, eh? Anyway, it might be enough. We'll see how we go. Corporate Nitro. I'm wearing a suit because it's first date with the Rovan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One, two. Was that a pop? Sound like a pop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does it need a little bit more idle? Does it need a bit of choke? No, it doesn't need choke if it started. I'll give it a little bit anyway.